I remember going into 2022 when I said to myself that I wanted to do at least one video a week as a silly little goal for myself. Therefore, through hard work and determination, I managed to output a whopping 22. 13 of which were low effort, easy to pump out reactions to mid-video game conferences. I mean, that's what catching up on One Piece and leaving 2 courseworks I had months to do until the last minute does to you. So, my goal for 2023 is to put out at least 2 videos. Halfway there. So I need like a topical series.
For the memes.
Oh yeah, those Persona game ports came out the other day. I guess I could get started with those. Persona 1 sets the precedent for the majority of the upcoming series by setting the game in a regular-ass high school in a regular-ass Japanese city. The protagonist and his friends are all normal high schoolers at St. Hermelin High School, when one of them suggests to fuck around and find out by playing a ritual game called Persona. Thus, the gang decides to fuck around, and in doing so, they certainly find out, when the 4 people that partook in the ritual gain a stand from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in the form of what's called a persona. Like JoJo's, these are said to be a reflection of the user's personality. I'm not sure what it means though when this guy's personality manifests into a Buddhist 4-armed disease-cleansing monkey. To each their own. The in-game Persona ritual, sharing the same name as the series it features in, actually foreshadows how the later games in the franchise would ritualistically summon foul demons known as the Persona fanbase. You visit your ill friend Maki in hospital, and her mother explains that the CEO of her workplace has unleashed demons across the city. If this sounds familiar to you, that's actually happened back in 2021, when Jeffrey Bezos accidentally let his employees out of their cage in the Great Swindon Amazon warehouse incident. Thus begins the Sebek route, where the gang sets out to stop the evil CEO, revert the city back to how it was, and try to save Maki in the wacky wavy inverse world by getting her to accept and thereby combine all 3 forms of herself. This being Maki's ideal self, Mai, who is the real Maki's self-critical consciousness, and Aki, who is the real Maki's destructive instincts. Wait, I've heard this somewhere before. Oh god, no, he's done it again. He can't keep getting away with this. There's also a different route called the Snow Queen quest that's about investigating urban legends from within the school, but apparently it's a lot harder, so I didn't bother. What, does it look like I've got that much time on my hands? If you'll excuse me, when Fortnite calls, I answer. There it is!
My favourite
What a
white boy.
hug!
See?
Oh, let me in!
My reaction, my honest reaction.
It's so sick!
Persona 1 is a great example of a simple story that's been executed really well, and just like the rest of the Persona series, it achieves this through its excellent philosophical theming. The story, and specifically Maki's development, reflects the complexity of the human psyche and how we perceive ourselves in the mind of others. Nice. The localization likes to mess around with all the characters' names between each version and region the game was released in, so I'm just going to go off what I can remember they were called. Ironic then, we start with the character that has no name, the boy with the earring. Just like the other Persona games, 99% of the time the protagonist is silent, which means the personality can be interpreted through the choices that's made by the player. They're as good as you are. Oh god, that means the main character's racist. The main group is therefore the MC, followed by Maki, Mark, and Kei. All of these characters mesh well with each other because of how different their personalities are. Maki is the standard nice cheery girl character, Mark is the classic Persona bro dude best friend of the main character class clown type beat, and Kei is a rich snobby nepotism baby. One of the ways that Persona 1 and 2 differ from 3, 4 and 5 is the inclusion of a 5th party member, as opposed to the classic 4 dudes in a line format that the newer games use. Now, I didn't know you get to choose your 5th party slot until after I finished the game, so hello Brown. He was a pretty funny, albeit self-centered character, although I harboured a grudge towards him for the first 70% of the game, as he was much lower level, so his persona was worse and he did way less damage. Now, if you didn't automatically choose Brown as your 5th party member, as I and what I assume nearly everyone else did, your options for other party members include Ellie, Ayase, Raiji, and Yuki. As I barely saw them in the game, I'm not really going to go over them. However, once you've chosen your 5th slot, you have it locked them in and you can't change it. So is it just me? Or isn't it pretty fucked up that Reiji, the universally considered best unit in the game, needs a 15-minute tutorial outlining the random steps you have to take and completely missable NPCs you have to talk to, and 3 other candidates you have to decline just to get him to join? Now, moving on from party members, the villain of the game is Jeff Bezos, or Kandori as it says in game to cover up his tracks. He's the most typical villain lusting for power going. He makes the thing called the Diva system, which is a reality-altering machine which fucked up the town, your friend Maki for some reason as well. That also released the demons that do his bidding and try and stop your group, and then built a castle because he can do what he wants. He's trying to reach godhood. Do you think a castle isn't necessary? And then there's Igor. You might know him, he's a recurring character in this series, creepy long-nosed looking ass. He's working the graveyard shift at the Velvet Room, a place that's described as the place between dream and reality, mind and matter, but is actually just a storage container for the stronger personas that you're not a high enough level to use yet, with a creepy dude round the back that will fuse 2 personas together to make a stronger one. And finally, the man that guides you through the game, Philemon. He's one of the most important characters in the entire Persona series, but don't worry, you don't have to remember him, he doesn't show up past Persona 2. Well, he does, but even though he's literally Igor's boss and the creator of the Velvet Room, he likes to fuck around as like a blue butterfly in every game and just kind of watch things happen, like the JRPG equivalent of the Hotel Cuck chair. Now, first and foremost, people might forget that despite being the more popular series, the Persona games are the spin-offs. In this game's case though, this doesn't make too much of a difference. The biggest change between Persona 1, Shin Megami Tensei and the newer Persona games is the lack of social links. These are extra individual character stories in the later Persona games that help develop the characters outside of the main story. I think the story of Persona 1 does a good job at developing these characters without this, and even though it would be nice to see a deeper delve into the cast characters, it is nice not having to micromanage what characters to hang out with and what day, therefore having to experience all stages of their story and not miss out on the new persona you unlock from completing their social link. Jesus Christ, Kenji, I can't go with you right now to the cinema, I have to go to the nightclub and listen to the drunk old Buddhist man. Before any of the battling starts, the first thing I notice is that the entire game is in italics, which is weird with the normal horizontal controls, but whatever, pop off I guess. Dungeons are in first person, where you have to turn before you move forward, so expect to bump into every single wall like me after the lobotomy. And speaking of things that take a while to get used to, the town map absolutely stinks. There's zero indication of where to go. In fact, you have to hold down the square button just to see what the landmarks are called. The dungeons are right though. Most of the time. While you traverse this map, take 3 steps and you've encountered by far the worst aspect of the game, being the constant fucking random encounters. The battle system is actually way more complex than I thought it would be. To start, you have 5 people on a Fire Emblem grid, and where you place them affects who you hit and who you get hit by. I thought this was pretty sick actually. Imagine what Persona 5 could have done if it improved on this grid system. And the actual battling part is comparable to Pokemon on crack. Way more in depth than just type matchups due to the amount of ways you can deal damage. You can equip armor and weapons just like traditional RPGs, guns and ammo types like cool RPGs, and the personas you recruit along the way that control your elemental damages and resistances. The 4 main skill types are Element, Force, Light and Dark, all with 4 subtypes and the alternative option for damage with different types of melee and ranged weapons. Every enemy has different resistances and weaknesses to every single individual subtype. There's like 28, and you can view their weaknesses after you beat them for the first time. So this means that the first encounter with a new enemy could be absolutely devastating, they could wipe your team with one shot, and the next 50 encounters with them could be an absolute breeze because you know what to expect. The best tip I can give you for this game is to get charm bullets, upgrade your guns, and light those fuckers up at every single chance you get. 9 times out of 10 it does as much damage as a powerful spell, without the use of mana, can hit multiple enemies at all ranges, and has the chance to charm one of the enemy's hits. It's busted. The remaining 1 out of 10 time will have them reflect the bullets or heal off the bullets, so you might want to watch out for that though. To get new personas to unlock stronger character spells, first you need to recruit them. A similar system to all the mainline Shin Megami Tensei games. To do this, all you need to do is be a high enough level for them to listen to you, and then convince them to join for a fuck ton of options that each character has. Dancing to degrading, each enemy has a certain command that will increase their eagerness to join you. Do the wrong commands and you'll piss them off and they won't join you. However, do the right command and they still might randomly get mad for no reason, despite the fact you chose the right thing, and they still won't join you. I don't get it. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Just use a random online guide from a decade-old website and pray. I am so glad they got rid of this in future games. You then fuse either 2 or 3 of these enemies that you've recruited into a persona that has different typings and cohesion with different team members. Most types are good, and you want to get some multi-hit spells in early that deal good type coverage, but once you get the nuclear skill Megadola that does heavy nuclear damage to all of the enemies, you've won the game. Most enemies are coughing babies and therefore weak to the hydrogen bomb. For some reason, the XP system used to level up is fucked. It calculates how much XP each character gets based on their contribution during the battle, which sounds good on paper until your main character and healer are 20 levels ahead of the rest of the team, and now the rest of the team is too low a level to get a good persona and do any damage. I managed to have a pretty fuck it we ball attitude to the game and never grinded until I hit a wall. That wall never came, until the final fucking boss where my team got absolutely wiped. I had to grind each character like 20 levels to around level 60 to get their ultimate persona, which is the strongest one they can get, and when I finally got to the final boss, it was an absolute breeze and I was completely over leveled, so that was like half of my playtime. I have never heard the battle theme so much over and over again. I think how the game looks visually is one of the strongest qualities it has. The sprite work is so detailed and the animations are so fluid that the game transitions between isometric 2D battles and the early 3D dungeon crawling seamlessly. Although there are these weird creepy fucking cutscenes that give me the heebie-jeebies. For some reason, whenever I play a game from around the PS1 SNES era, I never expect anything from them visually. And then I remember that Donkey Kong Country 2 released about a year before this one did, so there's no excuses. I mean, the original PS1 release looked pretty good, a bit rough, but the graphics of the PSP are a big improvement. And I would fucking hope so. It released 13 years afterwards in 2009 on the same console as Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker and God of War Chains of Olympus. Any footage from recordings or upscaled emulators does the game quite dirty in my opinion. When playing through the game on the PS Vita, the sprites and visuals look really nice in person. Especially the persona attacks. A lot of the footage on YouTube of this game upscales it in a really weird way that smoothens out the sharp pixels and in place gives this weird painting-like visual. Some people may like this, but it's completely personal preference. Now, what's funny is I wrote that last part a long ass time ago before my coursework decided to become the bane of my existence, and since then the Persona 3 Portable port has released using the exact upscaling method that I was talking about. If I wasn't a lazy fuckhead, I could have called that in advance. As a little side note, they decided to port Portable over Fez, even though Fez has the better 3D visuals, animated cutscenes, and an entire new story called The Answer that takes place after the events of the main game. Calling it now, they're gonna do a Persona 3 remake that combines all the content from Portable and Fez, improves on the outdated mechanics like giving us controllable team members, maybe spicing up Tartarus a bit. It's inevitable. Whether that will come before or after Persona 6 in the next 30 years though, is a different question. For the PSP remake of Persona 1, Atlus decided to completely rehaul the soundtrack as well. The original PS1 OST is way more atmospheric, psychedelic, and is a much closer fit for the more serious tone the game has. However, it doesn't have school days in it, so PS1 losers, bye bye. We all know the Persona series, especially 3 through 5, is famous for their outstanding soundtracks.
Wow, this is giving me major Persona vibes.
However, we call the Persona 1 soundtrack the Hindenburg because it's nothing but straight fire. The battle theme is so good in fact that the game makes you listen to it 7,000 times. The PS1 version is amazing as well, however most of the songs in the PSP version are funkier, more upbeat, similar to future entries, which, while it can be unfitting in some places, are much better to stop and listen to. And no, I'm not just biased because the updated soundtrack uses the same vocalist that Persona 3 does, shut up. Overall, Persona 1 is a great but frustrating start to what will become one of the worst conversation topics on Twitter.com. Whilst the gameplay can become overbearing, and in my case very grindy towards the end, the story and overall charm of the game warrants a respectable 3.5 stars out of 5. Unless you can access a PSP or Vita digital store or can be bothered to emulate it, this game can be one of the more tedious and expensive to obtain. So by the time Atlas decides to port this to modern consoles in about 2043, it'll be great to see Persona fans finally realise that Persona 3 isn't actually the first one. And thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and if you want you can check out my horrible Twitter and Twitch for maybe 1 or 2 tweets, and a stream sponsored by the Shadow Government. By the time I get round to playing Persona 2, I will become a old decrepit man. Goodbye!